Did you know that Spotlight On is completely self-funded by the team that produces it? We're looking for ways to keep the podcast self-sufficient without sacrificing the listener experience or the integrity of the show. The best way we could think of was to ask for the support of our listeners. Please consider making a donation to help cover our annual operating expenses. Go to spotlightonpodcast.com and click the word donate. If you can, please do. And if you cannot, please continue to enjoy the show. We're happy to have you as a listener. Thanks. Hello and welcome to Spotlight On, the podcast featuring musicians, writers, innovators, and ideas shaping media, entertainment, and culture. I'm your host, Lawrence Purrier. Today, the spotlight shines on bassist and composer Marwan Allam. Marwan's debut album, Bab Bhar, takes Arabic rhythms and Tunisian music traditions and hands them to a jazz quartet, creating something that feels both ancient and brand new. Marwan tunes and plays his bass to echo the sound of the gimbri, a traditional three-string instrument from his native Tunisia. He's here to walk us through this groundbreaking approach and this project, and to share how growing up at the crossroads of North African music shaped his creative path. And now, Marwan Allam. So you're about 2 months or so past the release of the new record. How is everything going?
It's been great. We had the release show at Public Theater in New York City, place called Joe's Pub. It was great. It was July 9th. And then I had the actual album came out like a couple of weeks after that. So I had the single came out first and then the actual album.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's been good. I've been having few good reviews from journalists and from people interested in that style of music, which is good. And I need to do more of it. Since I am independent on that production side, I have to do everything by myself. It's just like I have the right people to deal with the production and getting the album out to where it should be. But just I need more time to set that up for myself. It's just I'm dealing a lot with writing music and doing music and then doing the production, and it just gets sometimes overwhelming. The more we do it, the faster it gets.
Sure. Yeah, you learn all the process and all the steps and all the tasks.
Yeah, and it gets faster. Yeah, I mean before people they really don't do the steps. Like they hire people to have, which is true, but just like now everything is getting really expensive and musician needs to learn the entrepreneur side of the music. So we all be composer, arranger, and a good instrumentalist and entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's like you have to complete that side to be a successful musician.
How do you feel about that? To a certain extent you have to do it, but is it something that you find any joy in? Like, is it interesting to you or is it just drudgery?
No, honestly, catching up with that side. I haven't been focusing on that side until I have to face that I have to release an album and I have to face the market, and that's what I have, and that's your budget, and that's like you face the situation and you are forced to learn that. That's how I'm starting to learn that side. I mean, I've been as a sideman. I know how things works, but it's completely different experience when you are the band leader. When it's your project, that's a very different experience than being just a musician.
What's the significance of the album's title? Is there a metaphorical significance or literal?
Yeah, it is metaphoric, but also symbolic. I grew up in a country that has multicultural diversity, I would say. We have a different ethnicity, but we have also tolerance to the between like modern and old. And like you work on the old city, people do things like or jobs or things that belongs to the old city. Certain like jobs or like tailor or like people keep simple jobs in the old city, like making an old hats or like wearing traditional clothes. That kind of belongs to the old city. But when you go to the more modern city, it's really connected. And there is this door that used to be connected to a wall, like a castle. When you go like a castle, a door, and then you have the surrounding of it, and then you go walk in the city. but all that gone, but just only the door left. And then it connected. But in a way, that connection brings to me the roots of who I am as a person, that I grew up in Tunisia, speaking 3 or 4 languages. You go to the old city, and then you go to the modern city, you take the subway, and then you go and you meet somebody who's like from 3 centuries ago or something, doing something with hands and no technology. And then you go and then you see the tech people over there. So
Yeah.
that kind of modern and old, it's not only talking about it, but just like when you feel it inside you, that is something I have to bring on into the music that I play. So I've been learning jazz like in early age, maybe when I was like maybe 15, 16. That's when I discovered jazz and I was into that music. But also on the other hand, I was also into traditional music, like into North African music. That's what we learn in the music school. We don't have jazz in music school in Tunisia, like North Africa. Most of the North African countries, they don't have a jazz education. So we have either classical music or just traditional music, which is beautiful.
Mm.
I like traditional music, but I also like a lot of jazz. I started like listening to West Montgomery, Fusion, Chick Corea, Mike Stern, that stuff. And I was also lucky to have the jazz festival in Tunisia, which is a good opportunity that we had like a city up northwest of Tunisia that you just like take a bus, like $2 or $1 or something at the time. And we go see, like I saw Ahmed Jamal and I didn't know who he is. And it's wow. And I saw Ronkart and I mean, I know who he is, but it's like, I didn't understand jazz at the time, but it's like, I know what he's doing is really great. And it's just so good to share that experience. And that memory stays with me my whole life because we don't have access to so many concerts and so many records, but just that one concert feeds me for years. That energy, it's just, I don't have phones at the time. Maybe that I saw Ron Carter maybe in 2002 or 2003 in Tunisia. So those concerts like really crafted my love for jazz and the aim of being musician after.
How did you come across jazz as a young person if it wasn't, in the schools and things like that?
First, it didn't come right away. It was a discovery. I discovered guitar music first of all. So I had my brother who just happened to have a guitar at home, and he just bought a guitar and he found it cool, and he just like, and then I started also like noodling with him, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And then my mom, she was like, "Oh, if you're like into guitar, there was a flamenco show in Cartago, which is in Tunisia, like Carthage, which is like the kind of the symbolic also city of Tunis, where like the Roman, the heritage and all that old stuff, it was in Carthage."
That's amazing.
And then I went to see this concert and I was mesmerized, like, wow. And I saw the guitar playing flamenco in those bolerias, and they were very close to us. The feeling of flamenco music, it was very close to North Africa. And I was crying, it's like, I want to be like that. I was 14 at the time. I didn't know, I had no music education before.
Mm.
And then, yeah, she was like, okay, if you like that, she put me in the Spanish Cultural Center. They offer guitar lesson there, classical and flamenco. And that's how it started. So they taught me to read music a little bit. And then I was just into anything that sounds good, anything. And then I discovered B.B. King blues, and then Jimi Hendrix, and then you name it all, Stevie Ray. And then I was into blues so much, like I love blues. And then I bought electric guitar, and that's where it started. And then I saw George Benson, not live, but I discovered his music. And then Robin Ford.
Sure. Yeah.
And that touch between the jazz and the blues, the pentatonics, and I was like, what are they doing? It was like, oh, it's so complicated, but so good. Because my ears, they were not developed. Because I was coming from a country that has no harmony in music. But slowly that my ears start to develop and listen to the chord progression and everything. And oh, okay, this is the forms and stuff. So I started to learn about Western music forms. And then we had one guy in Tunisia, he's like really good at jazz. And at the time, he was like one of the pioneers that everybody goes to his house and just learn about jazz. He was good.
Wow.
And then I went to ask for a lesson. I knocked his door. It was like, there was no phone. I had no here. I don't know. I asked where he lives. And, excuse me, yeah, I just want a guitar lesson.
Yeah, yeah.
And the guy was like, okay, this is my number. Call me. We had a lesson, and he was happy with me, and become friends. And then he told me, you know what? You should play bass.
Wow.
And he gave me Jaco Pastorius CD, and then he gave me like when you blink, you go someone and you give him an empty CD, and he puts like all the things for you, combination of jazz. And he did that to me, and he put Stanley Clarke, Ron Carter, all the great bass player. I was like, wow. That year I was like listening to that CD 10 times a day or something. Victor Bailey, all that beautiful electric bass stuff.
Yeah. Melodic bass. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. Until now, I feel like nostalgic to that music.
Yeah.
I love like Victor Bailey, the bassist, right?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he has one album. It's called Low Below, and that marked my bass.
That's the one.
Yeah, it just every time I listen to that with Lenny White on drums, and it's so killing, so good. Wayne Krantz on a guitar.
Yeah. What do you think he saw that made him suggest that you be a bass player? That's so interesting.
Oh, because we were doing a lesson playing chords and playing the bass line at the same time on a guitar. So I was at the level of playing chords and then adding the bass. And then he was like, oh, let me explain to you the bass line, the walking, the function. Or like in music, you have to go like 4 notes and the bar to keep it connected to the chords and everything. And I just discovered that with him, because before I was playing the chords, but I don't know exactly how the approach that the bass player uses to connect the techniques. So we were working on that, and then I discovered the function of the bass, and he was just playing the bass, and then he picked the bass and he played for me, and I was accompanying. I was like, wow, this is so cool and so deep, and you discover the function of the instrument. That love, like sparkle, I got from when he just touched the bass, and I saw the difference. And then I had to start understanding the swing tradition, playing different swings, and then when things started to be more professional, so my mentor, his name Fauzi Shkili, he's one of the pioneer jazz guitarists. He once, in 2003, he texted me. He was like, hey, there is a masterclass at the Mediterranean Music Center in Tunisia, which is up north of the city, like close to the sea, and it's like a very good music center. And they having teachers from Belgium. They're like, he told me this is high level teachers are from Belgium, like well known musician. They're teaching for 1 week. So please come and just let's hang and check it out, and you will learn a lot. And that's where things get to be decisive. Like, okay, I'm gonna be a professional musician. That's my job. So I was 18 at the time, or 17. And then the teachers liked me. And actually, this masterclass, it's a program that they do every 3 months. They come for 1 week in Tunisia, and they teach jazz music. And that stayed for 10 years. And that actually what helped Tunisian musicians to get into jazz. They formed, I would say, maybe around 20 musicians now, maybe, or like 15 or 25, maybe 30 musicians, that they offer a scholarship, like summer camp. They bring us for doing summer camps in Belgium for a month. And that also like help us to discover the world, Europe, and play with Western musician and learn how to play in an ensemble, learn how to play different music, big bands, and all that stuff we don't have. And that helped me to realize this music. I was like, oh, okay, I've seen it live. Now I know. And then they provide us with books, methods, everything.
Interesting.
It was actually better than school. Just they come 1 week during every 3 months. Man, like the progression that I had between 2004 and 2008, I think I got everything. It's like but they crafted everything on me. It's like, and then in 2008, I got accepted in a music in a conservatorium in Holland.
Yeah.
In 2009. But actually, the knowledge that I have before, that's it. It's like that you get a lot of things. It's like I don't go to school. It's like, oh yeah, this is autumn leaves, and like, no, I learned that 5 years ago, and you know.
The overlap between the way my understanding is of like the Arabic music tradition is taught more orally and less notation, and how there's also that strand in jazz of the older player or the master musician sort of mentoring and sort of learning by doing or demonstration. And
Yes.
and I wonder if coming from an Arabic music tradition or being informed by that music helped you embrace that
Yes.
modality of learning.
Yeah, there was that. Because we don't learn reading music and being mentally prepared to be focused. That level of focus in the Western music we don't have that. We're more emotional. Like when we play music, it's very emotional. We go very sensitive and it's just like, but that emotion kind of distract the focus. I had a struggle for learning how to read, and still like I can read. I'm okay reader here in New York, but I'm not like a really good sight reading person. That you learn after, then when you focus and everything, that's like after. But then you see the steps that you had, which is I didn't understand when I was young. What is this happening with me?
Yeah.
But you achieve better things. The musicality, the taste, the level of improvising. You bring stuff from everywhere and you take risk. There is good things to that. And you rely on your ears more than what's in the chart.
Mm.
And that's also like I learned from a lot of masters in jazz. They play by ear. They learn everything by ear. And then they rely that the happening of the music by ear. Like, oh, okay, this is going this and this is going there. And they organize everything in their head. They don't need a chart. It's a skill to learn. But ideally, you learn both. And that's maybe like this new generation of musicians, they got it all. They kind of match now the perfect level. That's why this generation the kids these days are killing. Like the musicianship and everything, it's all together.
Mm.
It's all like really good. Like my generation, I finished school like maybe 10, 12 years ago. It was okay, but still there was like a lack of few things. In schools in general, all of them. I went to so many schools, US, Europe. At the end, we're like jazz kids, like we know each other by names and everything. But this generation, it's, I think, the best. Even before the generation before us and before. Like they got the technology, they got the feeling, they got everything.
Incredible. All
these prodigies, they're 25 and they play like 40 years old musician.
I love hearing that.
Yeah. No, it is really beautiful.
You said something a few minutes ago about the emotional nature of the music.
Yeah.
I have just a surface level understanding of how Arabic music works and how the Maqam works. But my understanding is that they're even classified emotionally, right? Like there's sort of like a taxonomy of the Maqam that is based on the emotion it's meant to evoke, right? Am I saying this correctly?
Yes.
Don't be shy about correcting me.
Yes, it is. It is very subjective and very clear because it is true. And actually, when we study the Maqam, we think as it is as an emotion state. Like, for instance, there are Maqams that they express this way. And you have to express them this way. You can't be happy when you're playing this certain maqams. They have to be the technique, the sensation, and everything has to be sad, for instance, or happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like method acting.
Or upbeat. Yeah, it's very close to acting. They're very, very close. So that puts you in an emotional state that you have to be prepared for that. And the closer you get, the more music comes out of that maqam. Not only sad, for instance, we have the pentatonic scales, or we use them for different music, like dance music or African express, there are maqams that they are meant for specific emotions.
We'll be back with more Spotlight On and Marwan Allam right after this break.
Hey, this is Michael, producer of Spotlight On, and I'm here to tell you about a project Lawrence and I have been working on. It's called The Tone Arm, and it's an online magazine devoted to arts, music, culture, and people who make cool stuff. Those people are mostly musicians, but they're also artists, entrepreneurs in the arts, writers, and anyone else making our world a better and more interesting place to live in. You'll find expanded articles on our podcast guests, inspiring interviews with creative folks talking about their craft, fascinating perspective pieces from our team of writers, and the latest news and releases from the artists and musicians in our orbit. We're so proud of the Tone Arm, and we can't wait for you to check it out. It's thetonearm.com. And while you're there, become a free member of the Tone Arm and add us to your RSS reader. There's lots to come. That's thetonearm.com. The Tone Arm, putting a needle on the cultural wax.
And now, back to Spotlight On.
Is the closest analogy in Western music like the way a major or minor key evokes? It seems like it's too simple of a comparison. There's nothing quite as emotionally rich. Like, is there an analogy you can draw into Western music?
I don't know. And it is in jazz, yes. But in classical music, it's completely different. It is the type of the emotion that they have in classical music. It's very different than Arabic music would associate with. They have, like, when I study classical music, it's, oh yeah, you see this movement, they go into that, and that slow tempo goes to it's beautiful, but the analogy of Arabic music, it's different than that.
Yeah.
It's based on improvisation, the length of the notes, the groove, like a repetition by grooves, and then gets you to like trance mode. But that's how also slowly puts you in a specific mode. Arabic music is very repetitive, is very just melodic, vertical. It's no harmony.
Yeah.
It always goes like this.
Melody and rhythm.
Melody and rhythm. Harmonies are within the melody. Like harmonies, sometimes they have two lines and everything, but we never sing horizontal as in classical music. 1-4 or plagal cadence or all the cadence. In Arabic music, we don't have that. We have them after, like you have the melody and then you put harmony on top of it.
Do you know why the music evolved that way? Was it a function of the types of instruments? Did it have something to do with the mindset of the people or a belief system? I'm very curious about that.
It's essentially the instrumentation. The instruments are not chordal instruments. They play Arabic. Usually they're like single lines. We don't have pianos. Pianos is not ours. The closest, they have this string instrument. They call it qanun. They have a lot of strings. It's like piano without the keys.
Yeah, okay.
They have it in the Balkan. They play it with sticks. And that's the only chord instrument they build at the time. But they don't play it as a chord instrument. Like they don't play chords. That instrument plays melody. So everybody plays melody. And the forms also are different. You don't have like a chord progression or something like everybody improvise after. So we improvise over vamp. We do like a vamp, small place in the music, and then you play on that. There is no chords that they go, oh, okay, we have to play on this. No. So it's just melody. And everybody remembers the melody. Like everybody has to remember, the song, every melody of the song. Yeah. And the forms are very interesting also in Arabic music, not only just the melodies, the repetition. It's heavy. It's not heavy, I would say, like it's slow, but it's never boring. It's like you go and then you repeat this section and you go to this section and then you go to the other section, then you go to the first one and then you go to second and then you go to the fourth. There's like a nice way of thinking of the forms of music. So there are different forms in Andalusian music, in Middle Eastern, because there is a different style. Like where I come from, it's more North African tradition, which is very influenced by Spanish, like Andalus. Very influenced by African music from Mali, from Morocco, Algeria.
Such a crossroads. Tunisia is such a crossroads for hundreds and thousands of years, not even modern history. Just everybody came through Tunisia on the way to either to other parts of Africa and the Middle East or up into Europe. It's so fascinating.
That's the kind of the title of the album that is dedicated to that concept.
Yeah.
The Gate of the Sea means like we are a little bit of everything, basically. We had Maltese, we had Sicilian living there, we had Jews, we had Black, we are everything. And everybody brings their own recipes and food and tradition within a small...
The food must be so good there.
Yes. Yeah, everybody brings their food, tradition. but it's still Tunisian. It's not like very diverse. Like it's very drastic changes. Like let's say in US, it's like you walk in another block and you're like in a different country. Especially in New York, you walk in a block, it's like, wow, this is feel different. So we don't have it's still as one country, but that's within the country. You feel the history, like the food, of the music, and you feel it deep, very deep inside.
Something that's striking to me about the album, and I'm not going to do an injustice to the song names. Maybe I'll let you pronounce them. But the first song that opens the album is really a statement to me of what the music on the rest of the record is. And it does integrate these various strands and traditions in a very organic way. It's not showy in terms of, it doesn't feel exotic, but it feels sort of original.
Yeah.
Something I really love is that's the sort of coda section towards the end of the song where the rhythm really comes in. And it's those Tunisian rhythms, but in the Western orchestration that really works. I mean, having the trap drum set play those sounds, it's really effective. It's really something else.
Yeah, that was coming initially to the song called the Ajmiya. Ajmiya in Tunisian means foreigners. Ajam in Arabic means foreign. Or like Ajmiya, foreigner. And that sound in that song, it was dedicated to the Black Tunisian community who are originally immigrated from Mali, from sub-Saharan countries.
Yeah.
And they have their own tradition in music that they bring with them. Same as Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. And they name it different. Like Morocco, they have the Gnawa music. Algeria, they have Diwan. In Tunisia, they have Stambeli. They call it Stambeli, but very similar repertoire. It's very close, but it's different. The sound of those in each country is different. The way of playing cacabones, whatever it's like, you call them for the rhythms, it's different. But I was trying to imitate the gimbri, the sound of the gimbri on the walking bass and the bass lines. And then I had the intro. I was putting some a thing that it was like shaking the strings that makes them sound weird in the intro. It was this kind of, it's just like weird sounding shakers. I put them right under the bridge of the bass. And then I had to change the tuning for the bass in the beginning to just imitate that and plucking the upright bass. I don't play it the same.
And the gimbri is like a simple stringed instrument.
It's a 3-string instrument.
Yeah.
It's a bass instrument. It is bass. That gimbri music and Gnawa music, it's bass music.
Yeah.
That's why everybody loves it. It's just like bass does everything, the rhythm and everything. So I was influenced by that too. That's also part of me. But jazz is also part of me. Just like it's like when you learn jazz for many years, you know what's work, it doesn't work. You know what's good and fits and tasteful with this music without breaking the tradition too much or the opposite. So you develop a better taste through the years of how your music can sound good with a touch of a modern harmonies. And it's just like an update of, not update, but it's just like a nice way of putting your heritage to your word. It's like, I don't say it like, oh, this is jazz. Jazz is part of me. I grew up in many places. I studied in Europe. I went to Italy. I went to the Mediterranean sound, you know what I'm saying? Also the New York sound. I've been mentored. I've been mentored with so many great New York musicians through my whole years, even in Tunisia or in Holland where I studied, or even here in New York. I'm still learning from a lot from my peers, from my mentors. And along with that, it's you develop your also heritage. You still go back to your music. I still go back every year. And that kind of grow with the personality of who I am at the time. So that's how this idea came from, of like that song. And just try to keep the groove of it. Just that song keeps the meaning of that song. It's not like in jazz musicians, sometimes you put everything you know in one song.
Right.
It's like sometimes it's like, oh, killing. It's like just put everything. I want it to be spacey. As you notice, the song was kind of long. Take a solo, man. Yeah. Breathe, have fun, and let the groove happen. Let it sit down. Because that's how our music is. It's just like you don't have like a 3 seconds to go to the next idea and the next information. It's just like people don't remember those, and especially now, this time, it's hard to remember other people's songs. There's like maybe something that is really special and that sets them apart. But then everybody else sounds the same.
How do your collaborators and the other musicians you worked with on this record, how do they react to these influences and your sort of research? How do they find their way in? Did you have to find musicians that were familiar with your traditions?
Yes. I was looking for musicians that they had similar experience working with similar profile that I do, that similar music that I do. And they have that ear, the openness, the willing to learn attitude. And it's also like it takes a little time after the gigs. We played few gigs before, and we played with that project like maybe for a year or two, a year in New York before we record, and it was good. It was like every time we develop something, and then I will share a few influences, and I share a few records with the musicians to check it out, and I share my influence and the sound that I like. And yeah, everybody was like, yes, like towards that direction, and they got what I mean. And also I didn't really like put a lot of restriction on them, because when you put a lot of restriction on the musician, you tie the music and it's not happening. It's like, oh, is that what you want? So that's what I feel like, but do what you feel like. Because when you share your feelings towards that music, that would be honest, more honest.
Yeah.
And I wanted the music to sound honest, and just that, not only the composition, it's just like the way you feel into the song as an instrumentist. And that's what I want. Like even the studio session, it was just like, that's like the first or second track. We do the whole thing for like a couple of hours and that's it. It's like no overdubbing. We didn't do a lot of those. Like we just played right away. No editing, no, just a few minor things, but just the track that's how it was played. No other added stuff.
Given all the different sort of experiences and mentors and all your different musical experiences really around the world.
Yeah.
What makes you arrive at the jazz quartet as the vehicle for your music?
Because it has all the ingredients. You get rhythm, you get the bass, you get the piano, you get the melody. And then these are the most important ingredients in any kind of music that you want to do. A jazz quartet can deliver any sound if you do the right instrumentation and the right approach. Let's say if you have a piano and you want to play microtones or something, you still can, you can add little keyboard, you can do things to make it happen, but still as a function, it's the piano or a guitar or like the chord sound, like a department, And for the percussion, drummers can add a lot of things, can add sound, touch, can change a lot. So there is no specific sound of like, oh, the jazz quartet. There are straight ahead jazz quartet, there are modern jazz quartet, there are fusion jazz quartet, there are all kind of jazz quartet. So I was kind of, why I don't call it Middle Eastern, but just like, just different sound, but not very different. It's like slightly different accent, different colors. It's just a little bit. I as a person, I don't like going for drastic changes, like so much different. I would take it like from where I am and just change things a little bit. Even they taste good and they're easy to digest, but they feel different. So that's kind of the approach now. I'm getting a lot of encouragement towards the Arabic music. Like people say, like after the release of the album, I write also Arabic music, like more with oud instrumentation and nay and all that stuff, which is great for and these are American musicians. Like they're a great American musician who grew up in America, but they play great Arabic music. This is fascinating to me. I was like, when I moved here, I wasn't expecting to find like really good American Middle Eastern traditional player.
Mm.
And they grew up in America, like even though their background is white, like how is this possible? But like I had experience in Europe and they're not good. It's just like they suck. You still feel that there is this lack of culture, lack of emotion. But here, man, they got it. You know, like you are from different country, but you play jazz and you're like, you got it. That's what happened here. I had people from Massachusetts, from different places, and it's like they play killing, but they understand.
Do you have a theory why that is? Why American-born players can do it?
I think because they see the beauty in Arabic music and they see the point of it. And just learning it from the root of it, and they stick to that tradition and they learn, they get the meaning of that music. Other people, they just like playing and see it cool and that's it. But here I saw the depth that these musicians have, and they have full understanding of how really this music works and what should be good for this music. And they invest their life, dedicated their life for this music, and they invest in this. I was like, wow. So I'm considering more collaborating with these profiles of musicians. They have this culture inside their musicianship, you know. So for the next albums, I might focus more in the Arabic side, more bringing even more Arabic sounds rather than just jazz quartet with a little bit of spices in here and there.
Well, that's exciting. I'll look forward to that.
Yeah, I'm still trying to be me always. Like, I don't like just like, okay, this is the album, I'm going to mix this and that. I don't like the word, you just like, oh, you mix. It's just like be who you are.
Yeah.
Because the way how I speak my language, sometimes I add 3 languages at the same time. When I speak Tunisian, and it was like, it was a jump of other languages without me noticing.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
So I was maybe try to speak my language and let people understand that those jumps and go with it. That's the point. And just be honest and have a point out of that. Why are we going there? Why this is going there? And then you have the sound. It's like a story. It's like it has to have meaning. Everything needs to be like, this is the intro. Hello, how are you? I'm doing good. This is the problem, and this is how we solve the problem, and this is the thing, and thank you for coming by. It's like, it can't be simple. It can be simple. Also, like, this is also composition wise. Like, you have to think as a composer. You see the great composers like, I don't know, Wayne Shorter, Thelonious Monk. They have like point, they have tricks, they have games, they have so many ingredients in their music. I was like, why don't I play with my heritage that way?
That's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when you think, I would think of Wayne Shorter playing Arabic music. What does that sound like? So how do I maybe take those elements of composition and use them in Arabic context, respecting the forms, respecting this, but breaking rules, respect and break. So this kind of the game of the composition that I'm doing these days.
Thank you so much, Marwan Allam. And as always, thank you for listening to Spotlight On. Spotlight On is executive produced and hosted by me, Lawrence Purrier. We're produced and marketed by Michael Donaldson. Editing and sound design is by Terry Grant, and our theme music is by Q-Burn's Abstract Message. But the most important member of our team is you. Thank you for supporting our work. Please rate and review us wherever you listen to podcasts, and then visit us online at spotlightonpodcast.com. There you'll find our free episode archive, our online store, and a link to make a donation to support our work. Thanks for listening, be safe, and stay in touch.